for Halloween, but without being too scary. And don't scare anybody. But I thought about this term I had heard back when I was studying shamanism, back a while ago. But the term is hungry ghosts. And the hungry ghost in that tradition is like this negative energy that follows you around and drains your energy, makes you focus on the negative stuff, keeps you miserable. Hey, Ed.
Hi.
And so metaphysically, what a hungry ghost is it is a consciousness that we move into, where we are focused on the negative. And what happens then is our desire then gets put on the back burner, and instead, what we focus on is the reason why we can't have what it is we want. And we believe we can't have it, and it eats away at our faith. So pretty soon we're miserable. And the thing about the hungry ghost, it is a bottomless pit of negativity. It can never be filled, and it can never be fulfilled. The hungry ghost has to always be in want. And so that's why if we get into this thing where we're feeding our hungry ghost, we're always in a state of want. We're always going to feel like we're lacking. So the hungry ghost, luckily, it can only exist in that consciousness of lack. Because we can move into different levels of consciousness. We don't have to stay in the consciousness of lack. But we want to pay attention. If we're feeding the hungry ghost, we'll feel miserable. And the more we feed it, the hungrier it gets. It's ravenous. And so we get into worse and worse misery. So it only happens when we're in scarcity consciousness. It keeps us focused on what we don't have. It keeps us focused on how we'll never have it. So I want to talk about a couple of ways we feed the hungry ghost, and I want to talk about how to stop feeding the hungry ghost. So one of the first ways we know we are being controlled by a hungry ghost is we get obsessed with something. We will obsess on everything. We will obsess on what people think of us. I remember back in 2011, I gave a talk on 2012, right? All that. And I was in front of a room full of really lovely people, all smiling at me and just like, doing that, taking their notes, right? All these people so happy and smiling at me, except for one person in the back row did this. She rolled her eyes. Yeah. And I started obsessing on her. Well, what can I say to win her over? I have to win her over. It doesn't matter that so many other people there were smiling and supporting me. I was obsessed on that one person. Luckily, I wisened up really quick and I stopped looking at her altogether. But sometimes we obsess on things and we get into this. Should I stay? Should I go? Should I say yes? Should I say no? Should I go high? Should I go low? We just obsess, and we get stuck in the cycle. We may focus on a situation where we wish we had done things differently, and we'll think about it later. Oh, if I would have just said that, if only I would have done this, and showed them how clever I was, and put them in their place, right? We go through that obsession. And this happened, this is a little spooky too, spooky. Back in 1999, the 4th of July, my son was 2 years old, my daughter was 3 months old. And we went to a 4th of July dinner. And the family where we went, this woman, she had 2 children who were 3 and 1. So she had a year head start on being a mom. So she sat there the whole day nitpicking everything I did. Everything that I did. And really, I thought I was a good mom. I was a happy mom, and my kids were happy kids. She picked and picked and picked. So we got home that night, put the kids to bed. I'm laying in bed. Now, we were a co-sleeping family, so my daughter was sleeping next to me, And she woke me up about 1 o'clock because she needed to breastfeed. So I was nursing her, and I started obsessing on that situation. Like, oh, I should have said this. I should have put her in her place. Oh, if I had said this, she would have felt terrible, and I'd be the smart one. And I just kept doing this. So I'm so frustrated, and I'm agitated, and I'm supposed to be laying quietly in bed and letting my baby nurse. But all of these angry feelings, like, I'm surprised my milk didn't curdle, right? I mean, I was so upset. So I'm laying there, I'm on my side, and she's laying right next to me. My husband's behind me, fast asleep. I can hear him snoring very gently. And then I hear, in this ear, quiet. And I'm like the hair on the back of my neck stood up. And what I figured was that was my guardian angel just telling me to shut up, right? Or my daughter laying right next to me, soaking in all that energy. So I made myself stop thinking, and I was able to go back to sleep. But we don't always have the benefit of having somebody read our thoughts and telling us to be quiet. And so we keep obsessing. We keep on that obsessive wheel. So obsessing on something, that's one way we feed a hungry ghost. Having an attachment to something, that is another way we feed a hungry ghost. See, attachment is needing to have something be a certain way, but not just a certain way, our certain way, right? That's what attachment is. And so the only way that we can free ourselves from obsessing or being attached to things is to use an antidote to help us with that, which is acceptance. Acceptance. A lot of people don't like acceptance because they think it means allowing a crappy situation to keep going on. But that's not acceptance. Acceptance is more about acknowledging something. We don't have to allow it to keep happening, but we acknowledge something. Like, if I had a headache earlier today. I acknowledged I had a headache, and I had to ask myself then, okay, well, what do I want to do about that? Do I want to take ibuprofen? It's like, no, it's not that kind of headache. Oh, you know what kind of headache it is? It's a CBD oil and peppermint oil headache. That's what it is. So I rubbed some lotion on my neck, and it felt better. Now, this is what happens when we move into a space of acceptance. We're given new opportunities. We're able to see different opportunities that when we're in a space of attachment, we can't see. All right, now I was really attached in my house. We have a small house. But when we moved in back in 2013, or 2014, I guess, 13, my kids were at school during the day. And for the first time in a really long time, because I homeschooled my kids, first time, I got to sit in that living room during the day and have space to myself. And I would either be working on a talk or a class. I'd have a client over. I'd give a class there in the house. I had all this space to myself. Now, this was very short-lived because it was at that point my aunt started having problems, and then we moved my mom in. So we moved my mom in. My kids graduate school, so they're not in school all day long. They're both in and out of the house all day long. But I was so attached to still having my living room to myself that I would stubbornly sit there while there are people passing back and forth and being noisy and asking me questions. And I'm stubbornly sitting there like, I'm supposed to have my living room to myself. This is how I want it. This is how it has to be. This is the only way I can have peace in my life, is having the living room to myself. But I was so attached to that, I didn't see that there were other options available to me. And I didn't see those until I finally accepted the fact there are 5 of us in the house. My living room, you have to walk through the living room to go to the bedrooms or the bathrooms. And if you're in your bedrooms, like my kids hang out in their bedrooms a lot, they have to walk through the living room to go to the kitchen or to leave the house. So it's like my living room is like a passageway to all the other places, right? So it's a door to Narnia, I think. But once I accepted this, okay, Deanna, there are 5 of us in this house now. This living room has high traffic, and that's just how it is. What I realized was there were are things I could do. Like I could make the living room off limits for like 2 hours. I could say, okay, you guys hit the bathrooms, hit the kitchen, get whatever you want, and take it to your bedroom. And you stay in there for 2 hours. I do not want to see unless something's on fire. I'm out here by myself, 2 hours. I also discovered I could go out to our music room. And the music room is soundproof. I could go to the music room and shut the door and play music, and like I couldn't hear anything going on around us. Or I have a desk in my bedroom now. My husband scooted a desk in there and we rearranged some stuff, so I can go to my own room and shut the door. But I didn't see what other options were available to me until I was able to accept the situation I was in. So this is important. We want to acknowledge what's going on. Okay, we acknowledge what's going on in the government. We acknowledge any drama in our own family. We acknowledge things about ourselves we want to work on. And it doesn't mean that we just have to let everything stay the same. But see, when we acknowledge, that means the next thing that will come into our head is, what can I do about this? Once we accept something, then we can receive the answer. Well, what can I do about this? I can't fly. Well, how am I supposed to get around? Okay, well, I can't fly. So what can I do instead? I could drive a car. Okay, so we want to accept things. We want to learn to accept. That's really important. And it opens the way to receive information to do the next thing. Then this helps us to understand what we're focusing on. See, when we have our hungry ghosts and we're obsessing about things, we're attached to how things are, we're not focusing on what we want. We're focusing on what we don't want. Okay, or we're focusing on the lack of having what we want. So this is the next thing we want to do, so we stop feeding those hungry ghosts. We want to ask ourselves, what am I focusing on? Am I focusing on what I don't want? All right, well, I need to start focusing on what I do want. Am I focusing on what I do want? Okay, the next question we want to ask then is, okay, if this is what I want, can I imagine having that in my life? Now, when I first asked the question, well, how can I have peace and quiet here? I couldn't imagine how I would make that work. But see, if we cannot imagine how something can be done, if we cannot imagine having our desired outcome in our life, we can't experience it either. So we have to be able to imagine it. We have to be able to imagine it in spite of the appearance of it not being in our life. We have to be able to imagine it in spite of the fact that people tell us it can't be done. I read the most interesting thing about my favorite author, Dean Koontz. And except for you, and you, okay? You guys are my real favorite authors. Dean Koontz is a horror writer, and I love him. But do you know, he was told when he started writing, he could only write one book a year because if his audience discovered he could write 8 books in a year, which he did write 8 books in a year once, but if his audience discovered that, they would think he wasn't a very good author. Because back then, people believed you had to take a year or you were not a worthy author. Also, his publishers said, well, we can't publish more than 1 book a year because we don't want to inundate the market. We can't saturate the market with this horror stuff. So he wrote his 8 books a year. He has over 10 pen names. And they are all great sellers. And now, he doesn't have to use pen names anymore, and he can write as many books as he wants to in a year. Now, if he had listened to his publishers, he wouldn't have done that. He would have been like, oh my gosh, all right. But instead, he imagined, the thing he imagined was making money writing. He imagined making a living as a writer. And he knew that publishing 1 book a year, unless you're Stephen King, 1 book a year wasn't enough to support him. And so as a starting writer, he had to write a lot. And so that's what he did. We have to be able to imagine what we want, because there's this thing called the law of mental equivalence. And all that means is that we imagine it first, we build a picture of it, and then it expresses in our life. So source is the substance. Okay, source is all things. Source is the substance, but our mind is the builder. Our mind is building a life through all of our beliefs, through all of our habits, through all of our reacting, through our acting, through our conscious creation, through our understanding, our self-awareness. Our mind is building a life using the substance, and then our physical life is the expression of that. Okay, so source is the stuff, mind is the builder, life is the expression. This is why we need a mental equivalent, right? The mental equivalent is like transferring it from in here to out here, and it has to match, right? You would if you used a cookie cutter and you made a bunch of stars. It was a star cookie cutter. The cookies wouldn't turn out looking like little boots. They would have to be stars because the cookie cutter is a star. So that's the law of mental equivalence. It's kind of like having Play-Doh. I mean, you can have Play-Doh and you can do anything you want to with the Play-Doh. You can make interesting things with Play-Doh, and Play-Doh comes in a lot of colors now. Like when I was a kid, it was like just the primary colors, you know, but now there's like bright colors and neon colors. You can use the clay and you can build anything you want to, right? Anything you can imagine. Or you can mix it all together and get the mud-colored clay, right? Like we've all done that. Our beautiful clay turns into something brown and hard and loses its, softness. But this is how source energy works through us. Source lets us make whatever we want, whatever we put into our mind. Source is just like, yeah, okay. Okay, just like we can do whatever we want to with the clay. So this is how we stop feeding the hungry ghost of obsession and attachment, right? And really instead change our focus. That's what we have to do, is put our focus on what it is we want to create. So we're clear on what we want, and we get ourselves to a place where we can imagine it. However, if you're imagining something and you do really want it in your life, but you think, well, yeah, I really want this thing, but I just can't imagine how I would do it. I can't imagine that I would have the resources or the energy or the time. I just can't imagine it. So then what we can do is we can instead ask the question this way. Say, what would I love? What would I love? Now, this is a more playful question. And it doesn't imply that you have to do anything, right? It doesn't imply that you have to have the time or the energy or the resources. But what would I love? What would I love? That allows your mind to just start freely thinking about, well, what would you love? Right? What would you want to see in your life? I like to follow this up with a game. Wouldn't it be amazing if? Wouldn't it be amazing if? And then come up with something totally out there. Wouldn't it be amazing if I could go to 1930 and dance in a jazz club and drink some bootleg liquor? Wouldn't that be amazing? Okay, wouldn't it be amazing if I could go for a ride in the Millennium Falcon? Like I could actually fly the Millennium Falcon. Wouldn't that be amazing? Wouldn't it be amazing if I could go to Scotland, to Loch Ness, and actually see the Loch Ness Monster? Wouldn't that be amazing? Now what this does is it starts shifting our consciousness to be open to what it is we want in our life. So then the next question could be, well, wouldn't it be amazing if in November I actually wrote a novel for National Novel Writing Month and actually got through the whole novel? Wouldn't that be amazing if I did that? Wouldn't it be amazing if I actually got up and walked my dog in the morning instead of just throwing her out in the backyard? Wouldn't that be amazing? And then we're not going to feel the pressure to figure out the how because it's a game. See, when we start getting back into, well, how would I manage this? We go back to feeding the hungry ghost. We go back to obsessing. We go back to being attached to having to have things a certain way. So we don't want to ask how. Instead, we let the universe tell us the how. But see, when we're shifting our consciousness and we're getting into this game, well, what would I love? Wouldn't it be amazing if? then what happens is we receive divine direction. So then we'll know the next thing to do. Right? If I want to go to Scotland and see the Loch Ness Monster, well, pick a time during the year when I go stay there for 2 weeks. That would be the first step. And just go from there. But see, we're going to be given direction on actions to take to make something happen. There's that within us that knows what to do and how to do it, and it compels us to act on what it knows. So we don't want to know the how. In fact, if we know the how, we haven't really picked a dream. We haven't picked something taking us out of our comfort zone. We know how to do it. It's in our comfort zone. We've done it. We got a good idea already. So it's not going to be never exciting for our soul. The other thing that gets us feeding the hungry ghost is getting distracted. Getting ourselves distracted can actually be like an addiction, because being distracted will keep us from doing the things we want to do. When I first committed to writing something, right, I really had this project, I wanted to write it and complete it. I had to delete my computer, my favorite computer game off my computer, because I would go to that computer game and I would say to myself, I'm just going to play through it one time and it'll clear my head and I can think about things. I don't know about you guys, when I play computer games, it doesn't clear my head. It actually makes it, I feel like my brain hurts a little when I played it. Okay, so that's a distraction. Sometimes we just have too many choices. Have you ever gone onto Netflix and spent like 20 minutes or a half hour trying to find something to watch? I mean, I will be getting ready for bed at night. I think, okay, I'll watch TV for an hour, right? I usually don't watch TV during the day, right? This is one of my things I had to commit to, because I could sit in front of the TV all day. I love it so much. And if I could get a job paying me to watch TV 8 hours a day, I would do that job. I would take that job. So I only watch Netflix at night, but I'll be thinking, okay, well, I want to go to sleep in like an hour, so maybe I'll watch something. But then I surf Netflix for a half hour, and I was like, I can't even figure out what I want to watch. And sometimes I'll go back to something I've already watched. I can't make up my mind. We have a lot of options available to us today. We have far more options on things to do with our life than our grandparents did. My grandmother did not have the choices when she was 19 that I had at 19. In fact, I can look at my kids and I see they have options now that I didn't have when I was their age. And it's just increasing exponentially. We have so many options and opportunities available to us. It almost gets too hard to choose. It's like looking at Netflix and seeing there are 500 movies available. Now, sometimes when people realize there are a lot of options, and I did this, I was really guilty of this, I would just decide not to make a choice because I didn't want to make the wrong choice. And I was waiting for the angels to tell me, well, do this, right? Do this. This thing will be the thing that makes you happy for the rest of your life, and you'll never be sad, and you'll always make lots of money, and you'll always be beautiful and wealthy, and nothing bad will ever happen. But see, none of our choices are like that. Okay, there are no guarantees with the choices that we make. But see, what we have within us is that ability to make another choice. So we make a choice. This is important for our soul's growth. We make a choice and move into that next experience. And you know what? If it doesn't work out, we make another choice, because there's that within that knows what to do, how to do it, and it compels us to act on what it knows. So if something doesn't work out, we make a new choice and we're moving forward. And we keep expanding ourselves through all these new experiences. I can only think of one choice that's kind of a permanent one, and that's the decision to have kids. We have our children forever, or until we die. Okay, death is the only other permanent choice. But see, I could say, well, I bought a house here in Redlands. Well, now I can never move anywhere. Now, we live here in this area. We all live in California. any of us tonight could get in our car and drive out of California and never come back. That's a choice. That is an option for us. Being in California is not permanent. It does not have to be permanent. Okay, we could leave. We could move. So we don't have to be afraid to make a choice. What we really need to do is be afraid to not make a choice, because our life will get stagnant. We won't move forward. But there have been not tests, but, well, kind of like a test, but what these studies have shown is that people like to hold off on making decisions because they want to contemplate it. They want to really look at it from every angle. But that then there are people who will make quick choices. And what has been shown is that both of those people, even the super careful one, doesn't have like a better track record with good choices. But what happens is the person who makes tons of choices, they may make a bad choice, it doesn't work out for them, but because they are good at making choices, they move through the situation quickly. Where the person who has to examine every choice for ages and just find out everything about that choice, if they make a bad choice and things don't work out for them, it will take them a long time to get out of that situation because they're busy examining their next choices. So choices are simply a way that we expand our consciousness. We expand our consciousness through choices. We grow our soul through choices. Remember, our soul is here to have experiences. We are not a human being having a spiritual experience or a spiritual being having a human experience. And our soul gets to rediscover its divinity while we're in a human body. Right? We're not here to be enlightened. On a soul level, we're already enlightened. We're here to discover our divinity and keep making choices that expand us out of our comfort zone. So we keep having new experiences. That's what the soul wants. So we make a choice, and we do our best with that choice. That's all we can do. We do our best, because then we can make a new choice. And by doing our best, we're not going to have regrets. Or if we obsess on it, if we have attachment to how things should have been, we will have regrets and we will have suffering. Obsessing on things, being attached to how things have to be, being distracted, those are things that keep us from the awareness of our divinity. Those things keep us kind of in amnesia mode. So we're struggling, trying to force things to happen, right? And that's a sign right there. When we're trying to force something, we have stepped out of our divinity, right? We're trying to do it the human way, right? The human way. Spirit is forever unfolding its divine nature. It's like a flower that constantly blooms and never dies. It's just, Spirit is continually unfolding, expanding, expressing itself outward. Like a ray of light comes off the sun and it keeps going. It doesn't come off the sun, get to Venus, and think, I'm kind of scared of Earth, I'm going to go back. Okay, a light doesn't turn around and go back where it came from. Luckily, we're never away from where we came from. Where we came from is always around us, within us, working through us. Now, if Spirit is always unfolding its divine nature, because we are also an emanation of that Spirit, we are each a different expression. We're Spirit in all its many disguises. That means our nature is also infinite and unfolding, always expanding in nature. When we understand this and can even have temporary awareness of it. Wait, I am a divine being in a body. Wait, this is hard. No, wait, I am a divine being in a body. Okay, this was hard. But see, at least we're bouncing back and forth, right? And we're tasting it a little and coming back, and we're tasting it a little. When we do this, we are trusting what works through us more and more all the time. Instead of trusting that we have to get in there with our big hammer, right, or our big whatever, force something to work, we're trusting that unfolding unfolding divine nature that's always unfolding through us, for us, and as us. So we're always expanding into a new experience. That's what we're designed to do. We're not designed to obsess. We're not designed to stay attached to things. We're not designed to be so distracted we can't move forward. That's why those states feel bad. That's why we feel miserable, why we can even get into suffering. We were not designed to do that. We are designed to unfold our divinity into our lives. And so it is.